Hi, so we're going to have a discussion with the Animal Alchemist. And yeah, my channel is Vegan Ariel. I've been doing YouTube for quite a few years now. So do you want to present yourself as well?
Okay. I am the animal.
Hmm?
And yeah, I did activism um, since I was about 17, 16 or 17 for a long time. I was a socialist for a long time. But even as like a far left socialist, you'll still get called a Nazi and a fascist by the far left mob.
Okay. So the main thing I wanted to talk to you about was what happened in terms of you, because you were essentially asked to speak at the anti-animal testing march, and then you were thrown off stage. You weren't thrown off stage, but you basically were told to leave once you started reading your poem on the microphone. So what happened with that?
Yeah, most of the organisers wanted me to read my poem, which was about pacifism, which is
Mhm.
non-violent, animal testing, and homeopathy. And I really wanted to read this because I felt it plants seeds about homeopathy. Because homeopathy doesn't test on animals; it doesn't need to. It tests on consented human beings. And I've seen it be effective in lots of cases, especially with helping animals, rescue animals. So I started reading the poem on my megaphone. I was dressed as a wizard, um, and Katie Brown just stormed over to me. She went, "You're a Nazi," and started shoving me. She's the organizer of Merseyside Animal Rights, which they don't do many events. They do like 2 events a year.
Mm.
One is an animal testing event, which isn't usually a march. This was a special year, and the other is an demonstration. Um,
Okay.
so apart from Sabbatarian, they do a lot of that. In fairness, yeah. So she just stormed over, just started calling me a Nazi. Was trying to steal my things off me. I remained calm and I just I said on my megaphone, don't steal, don't need to steal. And the rest of the mob joined in. Most of them I have never met before because I've been away from animal rights circles for like 6 years. I've been doing
Mm.
my own thing. I used to do, I used to go to animal saves,
Mm.
some anonymous for the voiceless type of actions. I had my own animal rights group. Uh, I, um, I fasted outside of a slaughterhouse once for 5 days. I used to do fasts. I used to chain myself to things occasionally, things like that. Yeah, but the rest of the mob, most of them didn't know me. Um, after being after being a far left socialist for years, when I was about 19 or 20, I I listened to some of Tommy Robinson's stuff.
Mm.
I like to listen to different opinions. Like at the minute, I listen to raw carnivores, not because I want to be a raw carnivore, but I like to understand.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, like I've debated hunters, I've debated raw
Mm.
carnivores. I'll speak to anyone. You know, that's my mindset. Whether you follow, right?
I think the interesting thing when you actually listen to what the other side's saying is then you can work out what they're saying and how much of what they're saying is actually the truth. Because you can go down. I mean, this is what I didn't like about a lot of people using YouTube in the past, is that a lot of people use YouTube and then they take everything said in the video as the correct information, right? And they don't do any of their own research into what was actually said.
Right.
It's like the January 6th thing. A lot of people said that Trump incited them to actually storm into the Capitol, but he didn't actually do that. He said it's time to go home now, and he said we should march to the Capitol. Like, he never said that we should like storm the Capitol building. So it's kind of interesting, the kind of narrative that different news outlets that have different political biases promote.
Don't know why people are so concerned anyway, because as far as I'm concerned, most politicians are paedophiles anyway.
Okay.
They are. I mean, I'm against violence. I'm a pacifist, but at the same time, you have people who put more energy into defending these weird paedophiles
Mm.
than you do about people trying to fix planet, which really needs fixing.
I think the issue with the election in the UK was that you had Richie Sunak and Keir Starmer, and then a lot of their policies were pretty much exactly the same. And the amount that they were actually going to follow through on their policies, like hardly anything.
What's funny, it's like my dad has been whinging about the Tories for years.
Mm,
Like, he blames everything on the Tories. I mean, he was in the army and in the
mm,
and all that. It's not like he is like on the dole and supporting Labour. He's a worker, but he's always championing Labour and how good they are. As soon as they've gotten in, everyone's complaining.
yeah.
Apparently, things have gotten worse. I don't know if they have or not. Me, it's all the same. I didn't vote anyone. I don't feel. I don't want to be involved in these men's little party. So I don't.
Mm. I think so. I voted Reform because I felt like they were the only party with any integrity. But then the likelihood of them getting in, or even in line with like a coalition, like Reform and the Conservative Party, is hardly anything. I mean, it's very unlikely that they would. So I don't know. It's one of those things that you can't. It seems like you can't vote for a party that's actually going to follow through on their plans. And even if you have a coalition, it was like the Lib Dems and the Conservative Party. The Lib Dems didn't do a lot of what they said they would do. Like they said they were going to keep student finance the same. They didn't do that. Like they didn't fulfill a lot of their promises. So I don't know. It's one of those things. Voting's very tricky.
Yeah.
There was
I feel like I'm on eggshells now because it's one of those things where you're not allowed to say anything in this world. Um, but I will just say that I find it ironic how everyone's always complaining about like the idea of nationalism in UK and America,
Yeah.
but no one in the UK ever dares criticize its nationalism over in the Middle East or in Africa or in China.
Yeah.
It,
True.
you know, and I feel people would feel like on eggshells if they criticize any other country.
True. And I don't think that nationalism in the UK, I mean, I don't think that the Reform Party is very much civic nationalist. They're not ethno nationalist. So they're not like the patriarchal alternative that are like quite an extreme ethno nationalist party. They basically want people who are here to integrate, and they want to reduce immigration, mass immigration, particularly illegal immigration. They don't have any policies that I would say are very extreme, like killing people on the border, or I don't know, like giving the patriarchal alternative have this idea of giving people money who are immigrants to leave the country. They don't have. I mean, they're not saying that in the Reform Party. So I don't know. I don't think the Reform Party is that bad particularly, and I think that there are much worse national policies in places like China. Like, for example, they have the Chinese government want to not just keep the Han Chinese as they are, they want to expand the areas which they are which China is in, basically. So they want to extend to other areas that don't have Han Chinese in them, and then re-educate those people to be more like Han Chinese. And there's a lot of racism against people who are non-Han Chinese ethnic groups. They have this thing against darker skin, and I know that a lot of people say that's because the workers are the ones with darker skin because they've been in the fields plowing the corn and things, and that is an element of it, but it's partly a racism against people with darker skin, because that would indicate that they're from an ethnic group which isn't Han Chinese, so they're from an ethnic group which is more towards like South Asia. Because some Chinese people, they do have just naturally a much darker skin, and that's like an indication that they're from an ethnic group that isn't Han Chinese. So there's a lot of racism in China. I mean, they have concentration camps where they re-educate people to be more like Han Chinese. I mean, we haven't got any of these policies in the UK.
I understand wanting to preserve races, but not to the extent of where I mean, you don't need to be rude to anyone.
No.
Never mind sticking them in a concentration camp. You don't need to anyone, but it's like I visited McKincliff, people call it Matt, which is in Wales. Everyone there, most people there are it's a very left-wing place, and I was in a gardening group, and this girl was talking about how she eats squirrels, and it's because like the grey squirrels are outbreeding the red squirrels, and they don't want the red. But then at the same time, when I was talking about trying to keep language, I was talking about trying to keep languages pure, and but even that, she found that to be about, I don't know, she said something about it being to do with racial purity, and I just thought it was very ironic that she was eating squirrels to keep a race of squirrels pure, but she even thinks trying to keep language pure is racist.
I think they did talk about this in a Lotus Eaters video that I was watching, and when I was at university, oh, you can't see me anymore. Oh well, I'll go on talking. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I was at university, essentially we did this course which was English language, so we did an English language course, and it was for like native English speakers as well as foreigners. And essentially it was very weird because they made you speak in a way that natural native speaker wouldn't speak. So like small and little, small, little, young, they can be used in the same, like they can also all be used in the same sentence. So if you said I like teaching little children, it's the same as I like teaching young children, or I like teaching small children, right? But then they were saying that you had to say young rather than a small or little, right? So like the flavor within English, they're trying to negate in order for foreigners to understand what you're saying, which is really interesting. So I find that actually what will happen with mass immigration is you won't have as much flavor in your language. You won't be able to use lots of different alternatives for one word, because that's quite hard for a non-native speaker to understand. It will probably become more Americanized because the American English is more common than the British English. So you'll be saying things like, what was it? Yeah, you'll be saying things like trunk rather than boots and stuff like that. You'll be saying French fries or fries for like chips. So you'll change your vocabulary into a more Americanized style. And I think the third thing is that you won't have the slang. The slang will just be gone, because slang also is quite hard to understand if you're a non-native speaker.
Well, I mean, words are spells, and it's like I like common law, and common law always goes by the etymology. And it's like the word nice originally meant foolish and folly.
Mm.
I'm picky with words, really. So I'm kind of creating my own language. Um, it's like, I mean, if you use say, like, as an example, the word invisible, it's in.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't want to be invisible, you might want to be out of visibility. You might want to be unvisible. But if you don't want to be seen, you don't want to be invisible. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I know it sounds a bit mad, but it's like, oh, and the word Welsh actually means foreigner.
Really?
You look at the original of the word, the very original of the word in etymology, the word Welsh, more than foreigner, it means not man. So it's an insult, really. I mean, that's why they call it, what is it, Cymru rather than Wales.
Mm.
It's also calls them Welsh, it's words are crazy.
It's interesting. Oh, it's just that I've gone dark. It's weird. I don't know why I just blacked out and then I went back for some reason. I don't know what that was about.
Yeah, so like I was saying to you earlier, I feel the need to say this in the video. So Katie Brown, who was the woman who started shoving me and trying to steal my stuff,
Mm-hmm.
her mob joined in. So I think there was about 20 to 30 of them. A lot of them were wearing balaclavas. They were shoving me around trying to steal my things. Um, I stayed calm and passive. I'm a pacifist, so I stood my ground like Gandhi used to do. Um, and I just carried on. I just kept speaking over them, reading the poem. Um, yeah, and they were trying to play the silence. But Katie Brown, I mean, this goes way back. Her seemingly hatred of me. I mean, it might be a bit of fear because she defended a paedophile years ago. She kicked an elderly front saboteur out of a group, had him demonized because he said, what she was doing, defending this Vincent guy, uh, was wrong, and he was a part of he worked in schools. He groomed a 14-year-old girl. Uh, yeah, so I mean, this is with the bigger agenda. If you list, so all your followers should look into Alfred Kinsey because he was a scientist in the 60s. Who have you heard of Alfred Kinsey? He experimented on children. He documented paedophiles in children, and
Okay.
it was all allowed because it's for science. So you're allowed to like rape a kid. He was documenting
What
how
the hell?
forced, he was documenting how many forced orgasms babies could have. Uh, yeah, you could force an orgasm. Who knew? Uh, but yet this was a part of the bigger agenda. This was in California. California then later lowered the age of consent. This is all. There's bigger agendas with all this. Feminism is funded and push pedophilia, which will be called, what is it, minor attraction person.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, this woman, she works with a shop next to nowhere. They're selling all the different types of gay flags and Karl Marx books. Karl Marx defended the idea of slavery. He thought it was good economically. Karl Marx was racist. He said he criticized racial things, and even though he was a partial racial Jew himself, he was kind of self-hating Jew.
Hmm.
He had heavy criticisms about Jews, so he was anti-Semitic, ironically.
Okay. Pardon?
I just felt the need to share that because once
Okay.
once he criticized her, he had him kicked out. She had all the feminists criticizing him as a misogynist,
Hmm.
which was just stemming from being against defending paedophiles. It's all very strange stuff.
Yeah, it's very weird.
So the whole reasons of me from nearly 10 years ago, I have to criticize it because I've criticized every religion. You know, I'm a Jainist myself. I've criticized all the major Abrahamic religions, but you're allowed to criticize Christianity. You're not allowed to criticize the other ones.
It's kind of weird how the LGBT community are kind of very pro children transitioning and things. It's very weird.
Yeah,
I mean, pardon?
it's a part of the Alfred Kinsey agenda. So there will be paid agents amongst the LGBT community, the organizers and whatnot, to keep pushing these ideas. And and Katie Brown could be one of them. I don't know, but she's behind all that, all the ban oil groups and all those things.
Okay. I don't know. It's there's a charity called Mermaids. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's an LGBT charity for children. And I looked on the website and it had like a trans kid, and the trans kid was next to a drag queen, and it looked very weird. I mean, it looked like the kid was being groomed into being trans, if not being groomed into sex. I don't know, it's a very odd charity helping kids that are apparently trans. I don't know. And it seems a way of I think a lot of kids are groomed into thinking they're trans, particularly by their parents or maybe by outside bodies.
Yeah, people don't seem to realize the influence they have on their own children. Yeah, there's lots of sexual images of children at gay pride marches. I don't think, I don't think children should really be allowed at gay pride marches.
Yeah, I would only think it was okay for children to be at gay pride marches if it wasn't as overtly sexual as it is. If it was just like, oh, we're proud to be gay and we've got a gay pride flag and we're going to take our kids, maybe it's okay. But then again, there is an issue with, I know it happens with gay people. I don't know that it happens with trans kids yet. I don't think there's much research on this yet. But I know that kids, I don't know why it keeps on going off, that kids born to gay couples are more likely to be gay themselves than kids born to straight couples, which is an interesting finding. So that indicates that to some extent being gay, well, they think that being gay might be something to do with very, very early childhood development. So when your brain is developed in that way, between the ages of like 0 and 2, it can't change. And that there are like genetic dispositions to that as well, but that a part of it is explained by early childhood development, very early childhood development. So I don't know. It would be sad to essentially be an LGBT couple and then make your kid LGBT as well. I think there's a lot of issues with being LGBT. I think the main issue is that just the community, the gay community is so sexual. I mean, like gay men are like a lot of gay. I think it's 20% of gay men have like 20 plus have had 20 plus sexual partners, which causes issues with STDs. I mean, if the gay community was more monogamous and it was more less sexual, it would be okay. But I don't know. There are some issues with kids becoming trans or becoming gay because of their parents' influence.
Well, I know of homeopaths that have treated trans people for gender dysphoria, and they've reverted this. Don't know what to call it. It is a hormonal imbalance, and it is a mental.
Yeah.
Want to chop your dick off is a mental illness. So that's.
Yeah.
I don't dislike trans people. I don't think they should be bullied.
I don't dislike gay people or trans people. I think there are some issues with the gay community as it stands. I think I would be much more happy with the gay community if they were, and the straight community, if people were only having sex in long-term relationships. I think that would solve a lot of issues with STDs and things. The trans community, I think, are mentally ill because I mean, if I chopped off my arm, right? If I was like, I really want to chop off my arm, I'd be considered to have a mental illness. Whereas, like cutting out my ovaries is all right, like creating my vagina into a penis is okay. It's just very weird.
Well, I mean, in nature, if a male likes gay, it is kind of it's kind of a fault because they can't procreate, they can't carry on the genes, but that's just naturally. I But I don't mind it. I think there's too many people on the planet. I think in that way, gays are doing us a favor, you know. But what you were saying about the trauma before, trauma has been linked to being gay as well. Because
Yeah.
birth trauma has been linked to it, sexual trauma. I mean, ask any of your gay friends, gay or lesbian friends, if they've had sexual abuse in their life. I found most gays and lesbians I've spoken to have said to me they've been raped or anything else. It creates a hypersexuality because, like with the study I mentioned before, orgasms can be forced and then it rewires the brain. A lot of people have been molested, end up becoming nymphomaniacs, at least for a period in their life, or they can become the opposite. But nymphomania is usually more common.
I think it's interesting because I was thinking about doing a video on asexuality, but I was like quite unsure about it. But I think it's similar to being gay. With asexuality, a lot of people that are asexual are autistic. So they have like they just don't like being touched. So they have this, they're like genetically wired to just not like being touched. Or they've had some kind of sexual trauma. So it's like a trauma response. But I do think that there are possibly a small, very, very, very small proportion of people that are actually asexual and that they haven't had any trauma and they've just, I don't know, somehow they're just genetically asexual. But I think that it's actually very rare for asexuality to be genetic. I don't think it actually, I don't know to what extent it actually is, and I don't think it's, I don't think it actually is genetic. I don't know.
No, because in nature it would be.
Pardon?
In nature, it'd be classed as a fault, wouldn't it? Because you can't procreate, you can't continue the species or whatever. Yeah, it could be trauma. I mean, I went through a period of being asexual, and that was caused by relationship trauma.
The thing is that I never classified myself as asexual because I always thought that I wanted to have sex at some point. But then again, I felt like from the age of like 15, when all of the teenagers were interested in sex, I just wasn't. And I wasn't like, I was only like 21 when I started being more interested in sex. So I don't know. I think that I think that just I think there are a lot of causes of asexuality, and I don't think many people are actually truly asexual. And maybe I think people also go through periods of asexuality. So when you're a kid, you're pretty much asexual, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not interested in sex when you're a kid. And
We
then
get
when you're really old, pardon?
we get influenced and brainwashed to be interested in sex, as if you don't masturbate, you're abnormal, you're a weirdo.
Mm.
That's what my school's like, because it makes us dumber. Men masturbating actually makes us dumber.
Okay. I didn't know that. I
Well,
think.
if you look at all the great intelligence through history, so Nikola Tesla, celibate,
Mhm.
Pythagoras, celibate, Socrates, Aristotle, the rest of them all celibates and all
Mm.
just vegetarian. I'm not sure if Aristotle was, but the rest of them, Leonardo da Vinci, celibates. That fluid actually rises up the spine. It influences us. So they want all the men masturbating, which is why they push the porn. Why it's why all you have all these funded feminists.
Sorry, I
Why?
can't hear you very well. You need to speak up a bit because there's a thunder. I don't know. The thunder's just struck in my where I am.
Okay. So it's why all the funded feminists push OnlyFans, and it's
Hmm.
why pornography is free. And oh, do you know this? Pornhub is actually owned by a rabbi. You can go look
Really?
at a rabbi. Isn't that weird? That's why would a religious figure own a porn site?
Mm.
Um,
My
yeah,
God.
so they want
My,
all the they want all the men to think that if we don't masturbate, then we'll get prostate cancer. That's articles that are pushed in the media. But if that's true, most men are wankers, and prostate cancer is quite common.
mm.
Why is why are why isn't it helping? Why is prostate cancer at a high? If masturbation and sex helps to lower the chances of, you know what I mean? It doesn't make
Mm.
sense.
Interesting. Um, I think that the whole pushing OnlyFans and pushing porn and pushing masturbation and pushing all of these other things um, is possibly a way of reducing the population. Because to be honest, if you think about it, if you have high skilled immigration, right? So you have doctors and nurses and engineers coming from Africa or China or India or somewhere. You don't have to you don't have to school that person. You don't have to a certain extent fund their graduate loans. So you're getting in a skilled worker at a high level that you'd have to take a British worker all of that training to do. So I think possibly economically, it's they want to push people to not have kids so that they can use highly skilled immigration as opposed to having to school all of these kids for 20 years or 21 years or whatever, or even longer, and pay for them until that point.
Right. I don't think I can say too much on this, but
Mm.
look the guy who founded the EU. Is
Mhm.
Clergy, his name was. Look at quotes by Clergy to do with
Mhm.
rape. Because the EU is a big agenda as well. And the EU, the idea for the European Union was actually coined up before Clergy. The idea for the EU was coined up by Mosley,
Hmm.
who was the founder of the British Union of Fascists. So the idea
Okay.
actually fascist group. Um, so they took his idea. They might have funded him as well. It's likely they did because they fund a lot of these groups to cause all these divisions and plans.
Okay. I might
All,
have a.
all these left, all these leftists that defend the EU, the idea ironically came from a fascist. Genuine.
It's quite funny. I mean, I know that there are a lot of issues. I mean, if they were interested in high skilled immigration, and that's why that they were trying to reduce the population, I I don't know why so many politicians are so pro illegal immigration, or they allow so many illegal immigrants to come into the country every year. Because I mean, we're at a record high in the number of illegal immigrants that we're letting in, right? And I don't really understand why they're doing that. If they're trying to push people not to have kids for economic reasons, I don't know. It's a bit weird, and I also find it very weird that they allow kind of dependents to come in with doctors, for example. So if you need a doctor, an Indian doctor, you allow him and his family to come in, because overall that causes a net loss for the economy. So I don't know. It's very. I think it's if they're trying to stop people having kids to kind of increase the economy because they want to immigrate people. I don't know why they'd let so many illegal immigrants and dependents come in. I'm not sure. It's very weird.
Are you genuinely confused about it, or are you asking me to get to try and dig out what I think?
Um, well, you can dig out what you think. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I understand quite a bit about immigration and quite a bit about the negatives of immigration in terms of the culture. Um, but I don't know why. And I can understand it's just very weird that the media pushes diversity so much. It's very weird that you have so many movies that are pushing our diversity narrative. You had the kind of the new Inside Out movie, although it wasn't LGBT, it pushed a hell of a lot of diversity. Like there was kids of multiple different races in there. There was a Chinese girl, there was Mexicans, there was black people. If you go into any educational group, so you go into college, you teach at college, you teach pretty much every institution has diversity and inclusion, right? As a kind of standard that you have to go through to work at that organization, especially big companies. So they try and push diversity and inclusion. The lesson plans that I am given often push diversity and inclusion. And I don't really know why there's such a push when illegal immigration is a net negative. Okay, fine. If you're inviting skilled workers into the country, that's a net positive for the economy. However, if you're also inviting their dependents in, that's going to be overall a net negative. So what's your kind of 2 cents on this? Do you think they are do you think the media and the government is pushing diversity in order for people to accept? Maybe it's just so that you don't have as many issues. Maybe it's just so that you are accepting of immigrants coming into your country in order for you not to rebel against it, because for your culture to be taken over by immigrants and for um, there to no longer be a British culture anymore, I think may anger people and people may rise up against it. So maybe it's just to stop some kind of violent rebellion or some kind of race war. I don't know. I
Well,
mean, what's your 2 cents?
when I was when I was in high school, I got bullied immensely, and anytime I fought back, I would be punished for it. And I mean, I was thinking the other day, that's possible. Maybe that's why I'm a pacifist now. Maybe I've kind of been brainwashed in a way. But the oldest religions were pacifists and vegans, you know. So I'm not sure. But going more back to what you're saying, I've got to be careful with what I say here because
Yeah.
I made a video. I made a video like a few days ago, and it wasn't offensive, but it called out the source of the problems. It called out the banking it. I don't like words are spells, like we were saying before. Spelling, we spell words. Words are spells. I don't like calling them the elite. They're not elite. They're parasitic. They're control freaks.
Mm.
I'm pretty sure they've got some kind of schizophrenia and narcissism. Um, no offense to schizophrenics. I know some people with schizophrenia. Um, but yeah, because I called them out directly, you know, and I was careful with what I said as well. It got banned. The video got removed. I got a strike.
Mm.
So I posted it on Facebook, which is owned by Zuckerberg, and he's a control freak as well. But yeah, I feel they've got all these plans and agendas. Like they want it all to go into digital currency, and they want to be able to control everything we do. I don't feel this need. I feel I've got a lot of intuition. I knew when I was like 17, I used to do, I used to hand out leaflets about animal tech to people. If you
Mm.
buy products that are tested on animals, they'll experiment on you at some point. You know, and eventually they did, and I mean they always have been anyway. But in 2020, it became way more obvious.
Sorry, that's just the doorbell. Um, it's very weird alarm. Sorry, I can't hear you. What'd you say?
You need to get that door.
No, 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 no. My husband will get it.
Okay. Oh yeah. So the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Rosenbergs, the Soroses, the rest of them, they like hate all the racists. They're very racist against everyone, but they specifically say in their books that they hate white people. They don't, and these people, the Rosenbergs, etc., they don't consider themselves white people. They consider themselves something holier, something mightier. They're
Hmm?
they're deranged. Um, their own little family cult. Oh, I looked up the origin of the word family the other day, and it actually means slave or servant. Isn't that?
What? It's kind of weird.
That's what it originally meant. Yeah. Sorry, I go off a bit because I have autism, so I just get distracted. Anyway, so yeah, so that they're trying to get rid of us. They're trying to cause problems. I mean, every mayor in every major city of the UK is
Yeah.
I don't know. YouTube's very strange. I don't know if I can say it. They're of another Abrahamic religion. They are not Christian. They are one of the others. People can look up that themselves. They want us imposed. They want us all like a big no-go zone.
Hmm.
But I don't think that will necessarily happen. That's what they plan. They want it to. They want the same thing here to happen as what happened in Iran.
Okay.
As
But
you
what? Why do you think they want us to be a no-go area?
control. I mean, they had us as Catholics. For, sorry,
Hmm.
I don't Catholic or anything?
Am I Catholic? No.
Okay, so they had us under Catholicism for years, didn't they? Which was a major control system. They had all the
Mhm.
herbals burned at the stake as witches. Everyone who had knowledge and everyone who could access the Akashic records, they had them burnt. My Reiki teacher believes she was a herbalist in a past life. She remember her past lives. She burned at the stake. Lots of people were. We actually had an incredibly advanced civilization long ago.
Mm.
Free energy. We had all these things. So Nikola Tesla and other scientists that I read about today, but I can't remember the names. They talk about the Akashic records, how they accessed it, how we had free energy in the past, how accessing the Akashic records led to them being able to find free energy,
Mm.
but they want to connect it, which is why they promote, like we were saying before, that's why they promote the porn, because when men become wankers, they can not access the spiritual realm. They cannot access. Women are more naturally in tune with the intuition, but I feel men are as well. But I mean, there's lots of very spiritual men, especially if they can access the Akashic records. But women will be more in tuned to do it, because women don't give up their fluids like men do, so they're holding it and go rise or above the spine, which is also
Mm.
why feminism has a lot of power in society, because men are weakened through all the pornography and all the terrible foods which invoke more lust. Uh, but there's a lot of men now that are going back to semen retention and or celibacy and tantra as well.
Mm. Okay. I think we should kind of wrap up the conversation now because it's the time is getting on a bit. But it was nice talking to you anyway.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for having me.
That's all right.